Hello friends, this is your friend back with a new fanfic, Frozen Bonds and Hidden Alliances. If you like this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Now, let's start. The next afternoon, Naruto woke up from a restless night, or should he say morning's sleep. His mind was in a whirlwind of activity. All of the revelations of that night came into a loose focus. First and foremost, he spoke to the Kyuubi. The same Kyuubi that attacked the village. The same Kyuubi that is said to be the most powerful demon beast. He wondered, what is a demon? The Kyuubi talked to him, and while it was scary, like shit your pants and pray you don't die scary, the Kyuubi told him about that night and about his mother. He said he was ripped out of his mother, but then she held him down. So, the Kyuubi being forced out of his mother didn't kill his mom. Then what killed her? As one thought came into clarity, another thought assaulted it and forced it out of focus. Thus, when a disheveled Naruto scooted into the kitchen rubbing his eyes, both Tsunade and Tsubaki adopted concerned looks on their faces. Tsubaki opened the conversation, "Did you get any sleep, Naruto? You still look quite tired." "Hi, Tsubaki-kachan. I just have a lot on my mind, and I can't seem to settle it all down." The response enhanced Tsubaki's concern and she walked over to Naruto and embraced him in a motherly hug. It was the least she could do after this child brought so much light and life back into her world. He had brought her back from the brink of losing herself in grief after the Kyuubi attack. Naruto seemed to melt into the hug as she whispered comfortable reassurances into his ear. "Brat, I know you probably have a lot of questions, so why don't we answer some of your questions before we go back to the Hokage's office?" asked Tsunade in a gentle tone. "Okay, Ba-chan, can you tell me about Kushina? Is she really my mother?" A small smile lit upon Tsunade's face as she remembered the brash, raucous and eternally loyal Kunoichi. "Your mother was an amazing woman, Naruto. She was so excited when she found out she was pregnant with you. She should have been the one here with you instead of me. I was supposed to be the one to deliver you, but I was out of town at the time." Guilt racked Tsunade. She had been so caught in her own grief that she went on a bender in Tanzaku town and completely missed Naruto's birth. If she were there, maybe if she were there that whole night would have been different. "Ba-chan, I wish I knew my mother, but you and Tsubaki-kachan have always been here for me. You have helped me so much. I don't know why you look sad, but please, Ba-chan, don't ever say you shouldn't be here. I don't know what I would do without you. I love you, Tsunade Bakan." And with those 3 words and a hug from the tiny blonde, the dams broke. The pent-up grief and frustration flowed out of Tsunade and onto Naruto in the form of sparkling, purifying tears. After that, Tsunade spent the rest of the early afternoon sharing stories of Kushina with Naruto. The smiles and laughter emanating from the blonde lit up the house and seemed to clear out the remainder of Tsunade's grief. "Okay, brat. It is time we went back to talk with the Hokage." 20 minutes later, Naruto and Tsunade ambled into Hiruzen's office and saw Jiraiya leaning against the wall to the Hokage's left. Hiruzen made a quick hand sign, and 4 blurs could barely be seen leaving the room. Jiraiya then flashed through a quick series of hand signs and slammed his hand on the ground. A translucent blue light flowed into kanji as it spread out in the 4 cardinal directions around the room. "Okay, Naruto-kun. Last night you said the fox told you a couple things. Could you repeat them for this worn old man? I have already gotten Shisui's and Inoichi's versions of the story, but they were ejected before you were able to talk to the Kyuubi," said a clearly exhausted Hokage. "Hi, Gigi. The Kyuubi said that the man attacked and somehow forced the Kyuubi out of my mom, Kushina Uzumaki. He then said the man put him under some super strong genjutsu and ordered him to attack the village. He also said that the 4th Hokage sealed him into me while some giant toad and Ka-chan held him down. Then he said he owes me one favor for freeing him from the genjutsu, but I don't really know what to ask him for," replied a vibrant and refreshed Naruto. His earlier conversation with Tsunade helped slow his thoughts down enough. "Very good, Naruto-kun. Let's take this one at a time. What the fox says matches with what we found that night in the cave after the Kyuubi's attack. The Anbu and nursing staff were killed with kunai. So, it is safe to assume the man in the orange mask killed them as well." Hiruzen gritted out that last part through clenched teeth. Naruto-kun doesn't need to be weighed down by an old man's grief, thought Hiruzen. I am sorry I wasn't there, Buako-chan. Now, Naruto-kun, can you tell me about how the Kyuubi acted? Did it seem like we can trust him? Well, Gigi, I think we can trust him. When I was in there, he said something about my ability to sense negative emotions coming from him. Tsunade cut in, wait, Naruto, since when can you sense negative emotions? Her incredulous tone amused Naruto. Naruto chuckled and sheepishly rubbed at the back of his head. I guess I have always been able to feel it a little bit. But when I touched the fox's chakra and felt the dark disturbance the genjutsu caused, well then it became clearer. And then when the Kyuubi said that, well it all kind of made sense, I guess. That is interesting indeed, Naruto-kun. Mito Uzumaki used to have an ability like that. It wasn't very well documented, but it may have come from the Kyuubi as well. The third Hokage chimed in with a little more energy in his voice. Wait, the Mito, like Hashirama Gigi's wife. She had the Kyuubi too? Asked an interested Naruto. Very good, Naruto-kun. Your lessons with Tsubaki and Hitomi are clearly paying off. Yes, Mito Senju Uzumaki was the wife of the first Hokage and the first Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. Jinchuri what? Jinchuri? Questioned a confused Naruto. Jinchuriki, Naruto-kun. Those who seal the Biju into themselves are referred to as Jinchuriki. You are the third Jinchuriki to the Kyuubi no Kitsune. The same as your mother and Mito. Wow, okay, Gigi. Well, are there other Jinchuriki? Yes, Naruto-kun. There is a total of 9 Biju, each with a different number of tails. These Biju are sealed into humans and the humans are called Jinchuriki, meaning, the power of human sacrifice, answered the Hokage in his professor tone. That's awesome. Can I meet them, Gigi? I want to know what the other Biju and Jinchuriki are like, replied Naruto in a tone of childlike awe and exuberance. Hiruzen chuckled, well Naruto-kun, Biju and their Jinchuriki are closely guarded secrets of the various nations. The power that each Jinchuriki represents holds the balance of power throughout the elemental nations. Therefore, it is not common for the Jinchuriki to meet, unless it is on the fields of battle. That is one of the reasons we have kept you so hidden, Naruto-kun. Because I wanted to give you the chance to grow before you were known to the public. Okay, Gigi. I understand, but you said one of the reasons. What is the other reason? Hiruzen sighed and took a deep drag on his pipe. Jiraiya and Tsunade stepped forward and put a hand on each of Naruto's shoulders. Naruto-kun, I am going to tell you a big secret because I believe I can trust you. Until we all decide that people should know, you need to keep this a secret. As of right now, only a few of the clan heads know who your father is, and it needs to stay that way. My father. Are you finally going to tell me who he was? Naruto's tone cracked and damn near broke every heart in the room. We sure are, Gaki. We all trust you can handle this, so please stay calm and listen to the Hokage. Jiraiya said with a big smile plastered on his face. Tsunade just gave his shoulder a little squeeze. Hiruzen continued, okay, Naruto-kun. You already know your mother was Kushina Uzumaki. What you may not know about her is that she was the Whirlpool Princess. In her home nation of Uzushiogakure, she was the daughter of the last Kage before its downfall. And your father was Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage. Hiruzen let that hang as he observed the boy. His eyes were wide and shining with a layer of yet-to-fall tears. His mouth was hanging open as he slowly turned his head and looked at the portrait of his now-known father. The man had big azure blue eyes and the same shade of sun-kissed blonde hair that he did. He had 2 bangs framing his face and wore a Jonin flak jacket with a white haori laid over it. The confidence and power he exuded could be felt from his portrait alone. As Naruto was lost looking into the portrait of the fourth, Hiruzen walked over to said portrait. He opened the picture that was set on some hinges to reveal a seal that was kept behind the picture. Hiruzen channeled some chakra into the seal and 2 scrolls popped out. He handed the scrolls to Naruto and said, your parents made these letters in case something bad happened to them. In the ninja world, letters like these are needed to make sure loved ones get closure. Your parents gave these to me the night before you were born, Naruto-kun. Naruto hesitantly accepted the letters. With tears in his eyes, he opened the scroll that had a red hemming around its edges. Naruto looked down at the scroll through tear-filled eyes and read, to Naruto-kun from Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze. Anata, Naruto-kun, if you are reading this, it means something happened to me. I am writing this the night before I give birth to you. I cannot put into words how excited I am to meet you. For these past 9 months, you grew in me and my love for you grew every single day. Your father is a great man, if something happens to me then you can trust in him. Minato-kun has been heckling me every day to listen to Tsunade and he is constantly nagging me about my health. Your father has loved you since the day I told him. Oh, Naruto-kun, I hope I get to tear this letter up. I hope you never have to feel this pain. My heart is shattering just thinking of you living without your Ka-chan. Naruto, if the worst does happen there are a few things you need to know. I left the whole Konoha version of the Uzumaki clan scrolls in your father's study. The scroll is secured behind an Uzumaki blood barrier, and it is the one that is red. Use it wisely, use it to grow strong to protect yourself and those important to you. Second, Uzushiogakure fell 12 years before your birth. I never got the chance to go back there. If you can make it there, please secure our heritage. In the small home on the northwest outskirts of the village there is a seal array. This array will lead a true Uzumaki to where they need to go. Please do not let the centuries of knowledge our clan gathered die. If your Ka-chan can ask one more thing, please work to rebuild the Uzumaki clan and restore it to its former glory. Set up a home for them in Konoha, spread the Uzumaki beacon far and wide and gather the remainders of our clan to Konoha. Nothing is more precious to an Uzumaki than family. Ask Hiruzen, Tsunade and Jiraiya to help you with this as a final favor to me. Naruto, this part is something my mother told me before I left Uzushigakure. Don't be picky. Eat lots and grow strong. Make sure that you bathe every day and stay warm. Also, don't stay up late. You need lots of sleep. And make friends. You don't need a lot of friends. Just a few. Ones you can really trust. I wasn't very good at it, but keep up with your studies and practice your ninjutsu hard. Remember that everyone has strengths and weaknesses. So don't get too depressed if you can't do something well. Respect your teachers and upperclassmen at the academy. Oh, and this is important. It's about the 3 prohibitions for a shinobi. 1. Be extra careful about lending and borrowing money. Put your mission wages into your savings account. No alcohol until you're 20. Too much can ruin your health, so drink in moderation. 3. Another prohibition is women. I'm a woman, so I don't know too much about this but all you need to remember is that this world is made up of men and women. So, it's only natural to take an interest in girls. But just don't get hooked on bad women. Find someone just like me. My boy, I pray to Kami that you will never read this letter, but if you do remember one thing. Your Ka-chan loves you dearly and I will be watching over you from the pure world. With all my heart and love, Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze. Jiraiya, Tsunade and Hiruzen remained silent while they watched this young boy read the scroll from his mother. The tears of sorrow that flowed freely seemed to sparkle as they turned into tears of happiness and then a look of determination and firm resolve fixed itself to Naruto's face. The young and rounded face of Naruto remained hardened as he picked up Minato's scroll and then, after taking a deep breath, Naruto opened the black scroll with yellow edges. To my son, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze from Minato Namikaze Uzumaki. My son, if you are reading this then it is likely that I have perished. I knew that becoming the Hokage meant that I would have to place the village before my life. I have no regrets. I met a beautiful and fiery red-headed woman that restored the light to my world, and it was your mother that kept my will of fire burning brightly. As Hokage, I will be forced to make decisions that you may not understand. If this is the case, know that I am sorry my son. When I took the mantle of Hokage, the whole village became my family and I will protect family with my life, no hesitation and no regrets. I swear to you that I did my best to lead Konoha down the righteous path. If I perish before you have matured, please remember that I love you, eternally. I believe in you, my son. My goal right now is to grow a family with your mother and lead the ninja world toward the path of peace. It is likely I have not yet succeeded if you are reading this letter. I ask you to carry that mantle my son. I have only spoken to you and held you through your mother's belly, but I felt the light in you. I felt the power that can change the world. Do not fear making mistakes. Struggle forward, 1 foot at a time. Never give up. Never give up on never giving up. Protect those important to you. If Konoha is your home, protect it in my stead. I am sorry for asking you to shoulder this burden, but I know that you can. You are my son, after all. Not to mention the fire you will inherit from your mother. On to the good stuff. My study is hidden behind a genjutsu seal that is on the wall to the left as you walk down the basement stairs. Please do not allow anybody except for Jiraiya down there. If you do so before deactivating the security seals, it is likely they will die. I ask you to guard that library diligently and please do not let outsiders gain access to our clan's knowledge. I have no doubt they will pressure you for it. Once again, I trust you to make the right decision with this. Use prudence, my son, and use what I have left you to accomplish your goals. I will love you, always and forever, Minato Namikaze Uzumaki. After this letter, Naruto looks down through half-lidded eyes as sees some extra hastily written sentences. Naruto, the Kyuubi is attacking Konoha right now. I took the time to write this because I want you to know why I chose you to seal the beast. You are an Uzumaki, which means you will have enhanced vitality and a denser chakra that can handle the strain the Kyuubi will place on your body. Furthermore, I cannot ask anyone to do something that I am not willing to do myself. I am sorry to burden you with this. I only pray that Konoha will honor you as the hero you are. In case they do not, let me be clear. You are the vessel of the Kyuubi, not the Kyuubi itself. A man in an orange mask, with a single Sharingan eye on the right side attacked us right after your birth. While I saved you, he ripped the Kyuubi out of your mother. For what it is worth, the Kyuubi is under a genjutsu, so if you talk to the beast, know that this attack was not purely its fault. I made the seal to slowly incorporate the Kyuubi's chakra into your chakra pool. The seal will purify the Kyuubi's chakra for you. This is a great power, my son, learn to use it wisely. With love forever, Minato. Naruto took a couple minutes to compose himself. His breathing was erratic and once again he felt the whirlwind of information storming through his mind. Tsunade embraced him from behind and Jiraiya squatted down in front of him to get on eye level. Naruto, we wanted to tell you, but I am sure you will come to understand how serious this information is. We are here for you. We will help you. When you are ready, you can let us know. With a ruffle of Naruto's hair and a squeeze to his shoulder, Jiraiya stood up and backed away. Once Naruto had calmed his breathing, he started the conversation. Gigi, there is a lot in here. I need to go to my dad's study. He told me where it was and how to get in. The only one allowed to come with me is Jiraiya Kyofu. He is the only one keyed into the security seals. After a breath and with deadly seriousness, Naruto continued, my father added to his letter the night of the Kyuubi attack. He informed me that the man in the orange mask with the Sharingan was the one who attacked. Hiruzen sat up straight and looked at Jiraiya, my previous orders on this stand. Find him. We need to stop him before he makes another attempt on Konoha. Tsunade walked to Jiraiya and embraced him. During their embrace, she whispered, be safe, Baka. And come back to me. This moment of intimacy brought out the long-repressed pervert in Jiraiya. As both of Jiraiya's hands wrapped firmly around the ample posterior of Tsunade, Tsunade used her super strength to push him back and through the Hokage's office wall. The loud crash brought the attention of the Anbu, which made Hiruzen sigh and wave them off once again. Okay, Naruto-kun, why don't you return home and start searching through your father's study? Remember, my boy, if you make any contact with the fox or need my help, I am always here. Hi, Gigi. Thank you, Hokage-sama, for trusting me. I will guard this information and never betray your trust. As Naruto said this, he bowed deeply to his Gigi and Hokage. After recovering himself, Naruto took Tsunade's hand and returned to the Namikaze estate to begin sorting through his father's study. 1 week later in the Namikaze estate, Naruto had been searching through his father's study for the past week. Naruto had Jiraiya key Tsunade and Tsubaki into the security system so that they could enter with him. The number of scrolls and books on all matter of shinobi subjects was overwhelming. Sadly, it appears that neither of his parents were very organized. Naruto kept his usual training cycle with Tsunade, Danzo, the Hyuga and the Uchiha. Sadly, Naruto was told that Itachi wouldn't be joining them for a while because his is going through his Anbu training. Fugaku was swollen with pride when he mentioned the nearly 12-year-old Uchiha joining the Anbu ranks. After training, the first 4 days and nights in the study were spent tidying up his father's library. His father was a genius, no doubt. However, it was clear to Naruto that his father embraced the mantra that genius functions best amongst chaos. His father L-shaped, oak desk was covered in dozens of scrolls. Each scroll was covered in a layer of dust, and Naruto found that, after organizing, he would need to air out the room. On the 5th day, which was a Friday, so he didn't have any training, Naruto found the barrier that his mother had mentioned. After cutting his thumb with a 3-pronged kunai that was on the desk, Naruto smeared some blood over the seal array. He marveled as the array spread, flashed, and then the barrier shimmered into and out of existence. With the barrier down, Naruto saw an ornate chest made of maple wood and covered in seals. Where the keyhole would normally be, the kanji seemed to coalesce into a seal array with the kanji for blood in the center. Naruto nicked his thumb again, and the chest opened with a click and a hiss. Inside the chest were 2 scrolls, each the size of Naruto. One was an ornate scroll bound in a red leather with golden edging. The Uzumaki clan symbol acted as a clasp for the scroll, which wouldn't budge when Naruto tried to open it. Following the pattern, Naruto nicked his thumb for the 3rd time and smeared blood on the Uzumaki clan crest. The blood seemed to be absorbed by the crest, and the scroll opened. The scroll was 4 feet wide and about 12 feet long when fully opened. Naruto laid it out on the floor and scanned the whole scroll. Near the bottom, the last entry was written in his mother's handwriting. For the love of Kami, if anyone is reading this and you are an Uzumaki, then use the shadow clone jutsu. Otherwise, you will never finish. See seal below for jutsu. Naruto let out a full, hearty laugh at his mother's antics. He saw a small seal below his mother's entry and fed some chakra into the seal. With a small poof of smoke, a scroll appeared. It was labeled, Kinjutsu, Shadow Clone Jutsu. Naruto decided to heed his mother's advice and read through the scroll. The Shadow Clone Jutsu is an Uzumaki clan technique developed by Arashir Uzumaki. The technique is used by gathering chakra at the central chakra point, the heart, and forming it through the ram, snake, tiger, hand signs. Then add the Uzumaki cross. You cross your right hand over your left. Each hand will have the pointer and middle fingers fully extended. The index and pinky fingers will circle back toward the thumb, and the thumb will link with the index finger. See diagram if you are a visual learner. As you mold your chakra out of the central chakra point and through your fingers, focus on dividing your consciousness. This technique will divide your mind and chakra evenly among the clones you create. When the clone is dispelled, the consciousness of the clone and any unused chakra return to the user of this jutsu. This means that all matters of the mind, including the experience, knowledge and muscle memory the clone acquired, will return to the user. Warning: this Uzumaki Kinjutsu is highly dangerous. Do not make more clones than you can handle. Each clone cost about 1 A-rank jutsu worth of chakra. Start with a single clone and slowly build up before attempting to use en masse. Along with the memories, the clones will return all mental fatigue incurred throughout their existence. If overused, this can cause unconsciousness, brain hemorrhaging, and ultimately death. Naruto gulped nervously, then he thought, well, everyone says that I have a ton of chakra and I heal super quick, so I guess it should be okay. With that thought, Naruto went to the small training area incorporated into his father's study. He began attempting the jutsu after practicing the hand sign repetition. It was difficult. How exactly does one focus on splitting one's mind? After about 2 hours of trying, Naruto was breathing heavily and cursing himself. He decided to sit down and meditate to calm his mind and his chakra. After 5 minutes of breath control, Naruto hopped back on his feet and screamed, "Naruto Uzumaki never gives up." Datbeo. Tsubaki heard Naruto scream and grew curious. She walked down the stairs into Minato's study. What she saw made her freeze. As she reached the bottom of the stairs, she watched as 2 Narutos high-fived, which made a resounding slapping sound. Her confusion turned to laughter as both Narutos were shaking out their hands. Neither of them was expecting the force the other put into it. Naruto turned to Tsubaki as he heard her laughter. "I did it, Tsubaki-kachan!" screamed 2 elated Narutos. Not knowing which one to look at, Tsubaki addressed both of them and said, "That's great, Naruto-kun. Mind telling me what you have done?" She paled when she heard him say the Shadow Clone Jutsu. She knew that this was a Jonin-level technique. "And where, pray tell, did you learn such a technique?" "That technique is much too difficult for someone your age. I learned it in Mom's scroll." Don't worry Tsubaki-kachan, I got this. I read all of the warnings. Warnings? Tsubaki asked as she grabbed the scroll that was near the edge of the training room. She paled when she read the list of potential side effects. Naruto-kun, you should not be doing this jutsu. You could get severely hurt. Don't worry, Tsubaki-kachan. Everyone says I have tons of chakra and heal super fast. Even after making this clone, I don't feel tired at all. Hey, Tsubaki-bakan, will you take this clone far away, tell it a secret and then punch it hard for me? Why would I do that, Naruto-kun? That seems kind of dangerous and mean. Ah, come on Kachan. It is just a clone and I need to test something out. At this, the clone adopted a nervous look on its face and nodded at Tsubaki. Okay, fine Naruto-kun. Come on you. She giggled as she walked around the corner. She then told the clone her secret and then bonked it hard on the head, which transformed the Naruto into a puff of smoke. She walked back into the training room and looked amused as she took in Naruto. The boy was rubbing the top of his head and had a faraway look in his eyes for a second. The depth of the brilliant, azure blue eyes returned, and Naruto beamed at her. It worked, Kachan. It really worked. You told me you love running your hands through my hair when I sleep. Oh, and I owe you a foot massage for doing this favor. Oh, okay, I guess. Tsubaki just shook her head in an amused fashion as she walked back up the stairs. Dinner is in 1 hour, young man, do not be late. 1 hour later, Naruto walked into the kitchen doorway. Tsunade looked up and greeted him before returning to her medical report. Hiya, Bakan, cried out Naruto as he took his seat next to Tsunade. She nodded, showing that she had heard him. Good evening, Bakan, said another Naruto as it sat down on the other side of Tsunade. Once again, with her attention focused on the report, she muttered, Hiya, brat. A third Naruto walked through the door, up to Tsunade and gave her a kiss on the cheek. Let's eat, Bakan, I am famished. This roused Tsunade from her report, and she looked up incredulously. Incredulity turned to shock as 2 of the Narutos popped out of existence. Naruto guffawed at the look on Tsunade's face. I got you good, Bakan, exclaimed Naruto with mirth in his voice as he fell out of his chair and started rolling on the floor while clutching his stomach. Tsunade couldn't believe it. She couldn't believe it at all. This brat, at roughly 8 years old, just casually used 2 Kage Bunshin to pull a prank on her. Naruto, how, when, were those Kage Bunshin? Naruto started recovering from his laughter as he stood up, looked at her and just said, yup, found my mom's scroll. The last entry from her said that anyone reading the scroll should first learn the Kage Bunshin or otherwise learning everything would take too long. And before you say anything, Bakan, I know the risks. I started practicing it 3 hours ago and I can already make 2 clones. Incredulity returned to Tsunade's face. Brat, you're telling me you learned the shadow clone technique, a Jonin-level jutsu, in under 3 hours. After a proud, yup, from Naruto, Tsunade just shook her head and smirked. Well, brat, I guess this means I can train you about, say, 3 times harder on Monday. Naruto's giggling and laughter ceased, and his face paled a bit. Then he shook himself out of it and said, bring it on, Bakan. You better give up on trying to make me give up. Datbeo. If anyone asked Naruto why he trained so hard, they would receive a smirk from the blonde. He would point at them and say, because I got to protect everyone. Once I have done that, I am going to be the Hokage, Datbeo. After I become the Hokage, I am going to bring peace to the ninja world. He gave this answer to each of his trainers, the Hokage and each of the clan leaders. They had all gathered to watch Naruto's progress test on his 9th birthday. The blonde had worked hard over the past year in all aspects of his training. As Naruto was stretching and preparing to fight some guy the Hokage appointed, Naruto reflected on the past year. Tsunade held to her promise with Naruto. After Naruto showed off his shadow clones to Tsunade, she would have him create as many shadow clones as he could while still being able to make it through his training. It started with 3 clones and grew to be 50 clones, his current limit. Naruto would have his clones focus on 3 areas. One group of clones would focus on chakra control. This group would be seen sitting on the water, attached to trees and trying to keep leaves stuck on various points of their bodies. You know, typical chakra control stuff. Naruto was extremely happy he could put this work off on his Kage Bunshin. The next group would be seen reviewing medical texts. Since Naruto's mind had matured rapidly, he was starting to soak in the medical knowledge. He earned his field medicine certification from Shizune. The last group was attempting to incorporate chakra control into their taijutsu. The many fist-sized holes and missing bark that marred the trees around the Namikaze training ground were testament to this. Finally, Naruto himself would go with Tsunade with the remainder of his chakra and endured her physical training. This included spars, tasks like throwing boulders 3 times his weight and other various absurdities. The density of Naruto's chakra allowed the boy to strengthen his body to absurd proportions. When the Hokage was watching through his crystal ball and witnessed Naruto pick up a 300-pound stone, then Naruto threw said stone 20 feet. The Hokage's pipe fell out of his mouth and then the old man fell out of his chair. Needless to say, this training was working for Naruto. On Tuesdays, instead of 1 Hyuga, Naruto would get 2 or 3 of them at the same time. Neji and Hinata loved tagging along as well. When Hiashi turned up to a training session and saw 5 Narutos going through katas, he knew that he would have to step up the training. He started bringing multiple members and dividing up Naruto's studies. When Naruto told him that he received the clone's muscle memory, Hiashi would start each training session with a progressively larger number of shadow clones doing katas. Hiashi and Hisashi became accustomed to walking down rows of clones doing katas and pointing out mistakes. When Naruto shared his mother's whirlwind fist, scroll and his father's hummingbird fist, scroll with the Hyuga and asked them to help train Naruto in the katas, they both agreed. These training sessions evolved into clones being divided into squads and each squad had a head clone and would study one taijutsu style. And how Naruto devised the squad leader concept will be covered later. After an hour of katas, clones would break up with their Hyuga instructors and cover aspects other than the shinobi arts. Hitomi was Naruto's champion. She would provide scrolls on political etiquette, everyday how-tos, like how to cook, clean and organize. Hisashi was a previous member of Anbu tracking and capture team. He taught Naruto how to track and avoid being tracked. In 1 year, Hiashi was floored by the blonde's progress. It got to the point that Naruto would spar with Neji, Hinata and one of the 2 Hyuga twins at the same time. Neji was infuriated that Naruto could beat him with a single shadow clone. He was a Hyuga for Kami's sake and everyone in the clan said he was a prodigy. Finally, a week before Naruto's 9-year-old progress test, Neji hit his boiling point and blew up on Naruto. "That's it. I am done training with you. I cannot even beat a Kage Bunshin," screamed out a frustrated Neji. This paused the other spars and drew Hisashi over. Naruto felt bad, he knew the advantage he had over Neji. "Neji, don't think about like that. I am not just some kid, I have been trained by Konoha's best for the past 5 years. I am approaching Jonin level. I value your friendship and want to continue training with you." Neji's hair shadowed his face. He couldn't let his frustration show anymore. However, when he looked up into Naruto's deep and genuine azure eyes, the frustration returned in spades. "Naruto, I don't know why you are so special. I know you are strong, but last year we were on an even footing. Now I can't even land a hit on you. You were my rival, but now you are so far ahead I can't even see you anymore. Neji, please. No, Naruto-san, I am done training with you. Next time you see me, I will be stronger. I will beat you. Until that day, I do not wish to continue training with you." Naruto was dejected. He had bonded with Neji so much over the years. The training sessions were his link to Neji because that was their common interest. Through the training, Naruto had learned of Neji's struggles in the Hyuga clan. Neji had opened up to Naruto about his feelings of resentment toward the main house. Just like everyone Naruto's light touched, Neji's resentment had dwindled over the years and turned into a firm resolve to change his fate. Naruto didn't want to lose his friend and rival. The Naruto clone pleaded with Neji. He even offered Neji his training methods and seals, but the stubborn Hyuga boy couldn't be turned. He walked off the training grounds. Naruto's clone didn't want to deal with the pain, so it dispelled. The real Naruto was in the middle of a usual set when he caught the clone's memories. He stopped running and stood there panting, looking toward the compound's gates. Hisashi had caught the real Naruto and told him that he would talk to Neji. Hinata had walked over and tried to comfort him. Even the kind and gentle words of Hinata couldn't comfort Naruto. He just ran off and put his efforts into his physical workout that night. Tsunade had to carry a passed-out Naruto to his room and hope the boy would be able to move past it. Naruto hasn't seen Neji since then, and Neji didn't show up to watch his field test. Wednesdays became a Naruto's hardest day. When Danzo showed up to 5 Naruto's meditating, he was floored. The boy could use Kage Bunshin at this age. Oh, yes, I can use this, thought Danzo as the corner of his lips lifted into a sadistic smirk. Danzo knew the boy had fire and wind affinities. Naruto had long since mastered the stage 1 elemental chakra control drills. Naruto had massacred those poor leaves by the hundreds while learning to control his elements. Now, Naruto started his training sessions by massacring leaves by the thousands. Danzo had to have an Anbu come out and replace the bare trees every couple of months. The poor, inanimate vertical logs didn't stand a chance against a growing horde of shadow clones that were learning their elements. Danzo started each training session with stage 2 chakra control. The cuts from the out-of-control wind and the burns from fire always left Naruto a sight after his first hour of weekly training with Danzo. Remarkably, the boy would heal the wounds in less than an hour and continue with his training. Through use of the clones, Naruto had mastered the Gale Palm, Wind Cutter, and Great Breakthrough techniques. The Gale Palm is a C rank technique where Naruto gathers wind chakra to his hands and slams them together. This creates a blunt force wind that Naruto uses to accelerate his thrown shuriken and kunai. The Great Breakthrough is supposed to be a C rank technique where the user gathers wind chakra in their lungs and expels it over a wide area. This is a wide area, mid-ranged attack that Naruto has been taught to create openings or strengthen his fire just you. It should be noted that the damage produced by this technique when Naruto mastered it made Danzo say that it easily reached B rank. The Wind Cutter is a B rank that creates one or multiple blades of air. This is a slicing and lethal technique that can be launched from a distance. The further away the target, the less sharp the air blade is. Currently, Naruto can easily cut through a tree with his Wind Cutter if he creates a single blade. If he creates multiple blades, the technique loses penetration the more he creates. His prowess in wind manipulation brought a twinkle to Danzo's eye. He was so pleased that he swallowed his pride all those years ago and compromised with Hiruzen. Now he was responsible for one of the strongest weapons ever created by Konoha. Over the years, Danzo changed for the better. Naruto used to get a dark and dirty feeling from Danzo's chakra. Now, it felt like a shadow. Not as dirty and tainted as it used to. For Danzo himself, he had caught himself smiling and he even came dangerously close to laughing. Don't get it twisted, Danzo used to laugh, but it was more of a dark chuckle when he brought his opponents to their knees. However, Danzo felt happy when he spent time around Naruto. It was weird to everyone that had known the man over the years. He had even gotten a joke over on Hiruzen last month. The look on his old rival's face when Hiruzen realized Danzo was with him was priceless. Naturally, Danzo informed Torun of his plans ahead of time. So, when Torun captured the Hokage's incredulous face on camera, Danzo took the picture and hung it in his office. Danzo still insisted on keeping the roots of the great tree trimmed though. He would let Hiruzen have the light. Naruto would be the trunk that Danzo planned on linking the roots to the trees that basked in the light. Thursdays with the Uchiha consisted of training by Fugaku. He would often bring Sasuke and even Makoto to the training sessions. When Makoto had heard about Naruto's prodigious talent, she had to see her best friend's child for herself. When she witnessed the effect Naruto had on Fugaku, she insisted on being part of Naruto's training. Although she was inactive for many years, since Itachi's birth, she was still a formidable kunoichi in her own right. The two senior Uchiha would train the boys on fire jutsu, it was an Uchiha specialty after all. When they witnessed Naruto's training program with shadow clones, things accelerated. Fugaku had Naruto manipulating flames for his stage 2 training. After Naruto burned through his 5th shirt, he just stopped wearing them to fire training. Naruto's fire manipulation stage 2 training would be expanding the flames of matches until they were the size of fireballs or shrinking a campfire flame down to the size of a pool ball. It was hard training that took Naruto 8 months of the year to truly master. After Naruto's elemental control training came meditation and then fire jutsu training. Naruto absorbed fire jutsu much like he did wind. He found out from the Kyuubi that fire was its element, and since Naruto had been purifying the Kyuubi's chakras since birth, he had an incredibly high affinity to the fire element. Sasuke adopted a similar attitude to Neji. When he saw Naruto speeding past him, he grew frustrated, and the training became counterproductive for him. He would still come to the training since it was pretty much the only time that he was guaranteed Fugaku's attention. However, at the earliest opportunity he always got out of sight of the horde of Naruto clones that were practicing. It was just too frustrating to see somebody his age leaving him in the dust. He already had an inferiority complex from Itachi, now Naruto compounded that. Sasuke was just glad that Naruto didn't come to the academy, otherwise he would never get recognition as the best. Naruto's fire jutsu grew from Fugaku's training. The man insisted on complete mastery before Naruto learned another technique. Fugaku defined complete mastery as being able to use the jutsu with 3 or less hand signs. With the Great Fireball jutsu, it took Naruto a month to get it down to 1 hand sign. It was a basic fire jutsu, so Fugaku insisted on Naruto using the technique with just the tiger hand sign. This was tricky because the Great Fireball jutsu consisted of inhaling, holding the air in your lungs and infusing the right amount of fire chakra into the air while in the lungs. Too much and you would burn the lungs, too little and the flame wouldn't ignite upon release. Naruto had a sore throat that whole month. The next problem of using 1 hand sign came because it made it more difficult for shape manipulation. Sure, just using the tiger hand sign could convert chakra into a fire nature, but Naruto struggled on getting it to hold its form and hit his target. As Naruto's fire mastery improved, so did his control over shape and accuracy. After demonstrating mastery of the Great Fireball, Fugaku taught Naruto the Fire Flower jutsu. This is a jutsu that can spit out multiple, smaller fireballs. It is a mid-range jutsu that is typically used to trap or guide enemies into an advantageous position. By then end of the year, Naruto had gotten this jutsu down to 2 hand signs, boar and then tiger. Naruto ended this year of training with the Uchihas giving him a scroll for Fire Style, Flamethrower Jutsu. This is the user spitting a continuous stream of fire at the target. The stream can be narrow with intensely high heat or wider with less intense heat. It all depends on how much chakra the user puts into the technique and how the user shapes their lips to guide the chakra. At this time, Fugaku said that was all he could teach Naruto, because the rest were clan techniques. Fugaku also had to break off lessons because the Hokage's mission was reaching a critical juncture and he needed to focus on that. The week before Naruto's test, Naruto had bowed low to all Uchihas present and thanked them profusely for their time, training and for being there for him. The feeling was mutual for all Uchihas except Sasuke. Now before we get to Fridays, a couple of things happened to Naruto that need to be addressed. The first major realization that Naruto has was that processing the memories of multiple shadow clones was dangerous, with a capital D. When it was just a couple of clones training for a couple of hours, it hurt when he dispelled them. However, when Naruto grew into the technique and summoned 30 clones with Tsunade and had them reading medical books and practicing their healing jutsu for 8 hours and he dispelled them all at once, pain so bad surged through Naruto's head that he passed out immediately and didn't wake up for 6 hours. Tsunade then told Naruto to dispel them one at a time. However, when he dispelled each clone, Naruto had to process the memories. It became seriously annoying when Naruto had to sit around for an hour after training just to understand what his clones did that day. Then an idea came to him that he ran by Tsunade. "Bakken, what if I supercharge a shadow clone and have it make the other clones? Will I still have to deal with this headache?" Tsunade was intrigued. She occasionally used shadow clones, but never in the number Naruto did and never for training. "I don't know, brat. While I am here, why don't you give it a try for this training session?" "Thanks, Bakken. I know I can count on you to keep me alive if this backfires," said Naruto with more than a little trepidation. Tsunade returned his comment with a wry smile and waved her hand, telling him to proceed. That day, Naruto created 3 clone captains, and gave each of them about a quarter of his chakra. Each captain created 9 clones and divided up into their usual groups. Naruto completed his daily training and gave instructions to his captains. Each captain had the clones dispel one by one. Since the captains were the ones that created the clones, the memories didn't immediately return to the original Naruto. Instead, the memories went to the captains. Tsunade instructed the captains to do their best to process and synchronize the information. After 10 minutes, one by one the captains nodded to Naruto. The first captain dispelled, and Naruto felt the surge of information and fatigue. But he had to guess, it was about half the normal strain from the many clones training all day. He nodded to the next captain and was once again hit. After the final captain dispelled, Naruto was visibly tired, but he felt like he had a better understanding of what the clones learned, and he wasn't as tired as usual. From that day forward, Naruto used the clone captain method in his training, which reduced the strain on Naruto and increased his growth rate even further. It should be noted that due to the time spent learning and the collective experiences of his clones, Tsunade deduced that Naruto's mental maturity was accelerated. The boy became noticeably more mature in the way he handled himself. Not only did he reduce his "dadbeo" outbursts by 2/3, but he carried himself in a way that was odd for an 8-year-old. Not bad, but odd for sure. Jiraiya only made it back 3 times that year. His hunt for the masked man and Orochimaru kept him occupied outside of the village. Tsunade missed her goofy partner and Naruto wanted Jiraiya's feedback and instruction on seals. He hit a snag at Uzumaki Fuinjutsu level 4. This level covered the introduction to seal layering and applying seals directly on the body. Naruto was a bold and courageous child, but he dares not disregard all the warnings in his scrolls not to do any body sealing without the supervision of a Fuinjutsu master to proof the work. Unfortunately, Jiraiya was the only such seal master in Konoha. So, after 3 months of access to his family scrolls, Naruto was ecstatic to see Jiraiya return. That was until the old pervert blew Naruto off completely, scooped Tsunade into his arms and didn't leave their room for 2 days. When Jiraiya came down to breakfast on the 3rd day, he completely missed the frustration on Naruto's face. It didn't help that Naruto had a perverted old fox in his head that kept alluding to what Jiraiya and Tsunade were doing. Tsunade was practically Naruto's mom, so the repeated images the fox gave him were less than welcome. So, when a yawning Jiraiya entered the kitchen, he wasn't ready to deal with this version of Naruto. "Oi, Kyofu, what gives? I haven't seen you for 3 months and you blow me off for 2 days." Screamed a frustrated blonde. Jiraiya seemed to giggle and get a faraway look in his eyes at the word blow. Yes, all degenerates know where Jiraiya's mind went. "Relax, Gaki. I had 3 months of steam to blow off. Well, Kyofu, I have been stuck at level 4 because you haven't shown up in so long. I need you to test me so I can move on." "Alright, Gaki. Calm down. I just woke up. Let me get some breakfast and you can show me what you have learned. Then I will test you." After a tense breakfast, Jiraiya went down to Minato's study with Naruto where he saw Naruto's seals laid out for him to inspect. It is clear that the kid prepared for this, thought Jiraiya. I guess I know why he was so antsy. He then picked up and inspected Naruto's seals. For his layering test, Naruto labeled a fire-natured chakra seal over an enhanced storage seal. Naruto created a clone that took the seal into the training area and held it out in front of him. With one hand sign, Naruto took a deep breath and blew out a fireball. The clone yelled, "Kaden Fuin." The seal activated and the fireball into the seal. The kanji for fire turned from black into red to indicate that the storage seal was full. The clone then handed the paper to Jiraiya, who inspected the seal again. "Good work, Gaki. I have done some seals like this in the past. I would say this one gets a pass. You will need to work on a release method for the jutsu, so the seal doesn't spontaneously combust, but it is a passable layered seal." Naruto beamed with pride and moved on to the next seal. After inspecting and testing multiple seals, Jiraiya asked, "So what do you need me for, Gaki?" "All of these are in working order." Naruto tossed the Fuinjutsu level 4 book at him and pointed to the final test and the note that said it should only be done in the presence of a Fuinjutsu level 6 or above master. "Ah, okay Gaki. What seal are you going to try?" "I want a basic storage seal on each wrist. I have prepared the ink by infusing it with my blood and chakra, but I didn't want to do it without you here." "Good, Gaki. Go ahead." Naruto created 2 clones that took up brushes and ink. Naruto held out his hands, wrists up. He wanted to ink on storage seals for kunai and shuriken respectively. This would allow his to always be armed and able to respond rapidly to threats. The clones finished drawing the seals and moved back for Jiraiya to inspect. He took a minute looking at each seal and gave a nod of approval. Okay, Gaki. Have your clones activate the seals and then try sealing these kunai into your right wrist. The clones moved forward and did so. Then Naruto sealed the kunai and looked up to Jiraiya. Congratulations, Naruto. You are now a level 4 seal master. It was the access to the level 5 Uzumaki Fuinjutsu that exposed Naruto to gravity and weight seals and deployable barriers. This too had to wait until the next time Jiraiya was in town, but it was the seals that led to the next quantum leap in Naruto's training. Fridays were a new addition to Naruto's training. This day was dedicated solely toward deepening his bond with the Kyuubi and learning from him. Naruto shook his head as he remembered going into his mindscape to visit the Kyuubi 2 weeks after their initial meeting. Flashback, Naruto had trained and asked each of his instructors how they would handle his request for the Kyuubi. Tsunade, Tsubaki and Hiruzen all fell on the hesitant side of the approach. They didn't know how to feel about the Kyuubi or if it could be trusted to honor any promise. Hell, they just learned the Kyuubi was sentient 2 weeks ago. The Hyuga advised treating the Kyuubi with respect. Hiyashi picked up on the creature's proud nature through Naruto's recounting of their initial meeting. Danzo said to ask to use its power, no surprise there. Makoto, Fugaku and Shisui wanted Naruto to apologize on behalf of the Uchiha and encouraged caution. Any being as proud and powerful as the Kyuubi needed to be approached with caution. Jiraiya told Naruto to ask it what he could do to earn its cooperation. This approach seemed like the most attractive approach to the fated pair. Thus, after meditating and thinking about how he should approach the Kyuubi, Naruto firmed his resolve and sank into his mindscape. He walked through the hallway noticing the doors that seemed to be growing in number. He had doors now labeled Fire Jutsu, Wind Jutsu, Fuinjutsu, and different variations of his taijutsu. It filled him with pride to see the visual representation of his growth. Finally, he got to the door to the Kyuubi's chamber. He took a deep breath and entered. The auditorium and cage were already lit, as if the Kyuubi had been expecting him. He couldn't help but marvel at the massive fox. Each nail of its claws was still twice his size. The Biju was once again resting its head on its paws, but its eyes were tracking him as he approached the cage. Naruto noticed a new addition to the cage now that it was properly lit. In the middle of the cage appeared a metal representation of the Shinigami. Intricate ceiling created the image of this god, in all his ghastly glory. A gust of air from the Kyuubi's massive snout brought Naruto back to his purpose for being here. He stopped right in front of the massive cage and commenced the conversation. He bowed to the Kyuubi in a formal manner that would make Hitomi proud. Hello again, Kyuubi-sama. I wanted to properly introduce myself before we start our conversation. I am Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, son of Kushina Uzumaki and Minato Namikaze. Naruto paused here as a low growl emanated from the fox's throat at the name of his father. Naruto swallowed the lump in his throat and continued, I like training to get stronger, all the people that make my life worth living in ramen. I dislike judgmental people, traitors and those who seek to control others. My goal is to become strong enough to protect my people, become Hokage and then attempt to bring peace to the elemental nations. I would also like to meet my fellow Jinchuriki and their Biju partners. The Kyuubi listened to the boy ramble on. He was frustrated that this brat was his jailer and that he had the audacity to speak to him without showing fear. As the boy's introduction came to a close, the Kyuubi wasn't exactly pissed off, but there was a great deal of anger tinged with intrigue. That is mighty presumptuous of you, tiny ninja. How can a weak little boy like you hope to accomplish all of that? Is your pride that great that you can't see the folly of your words? And why would you seek out the jailers of my brethren? What could you possibly hope to accomplish by doing so? As the Kyuubi spoke, its chakra flared and put pressure on Naruto. The Kyuubi kept increasing the pressure, trying to get the tiny human to kneel in front of him. To his immense frustration, it wasn't working. Naruto felt the pressure. He also knew that this was a test and that he couldn't show signs of weakness in front of the fox. Kyuubi-sama, I have come to you in an attempt to make our situation better for both of us. Both of us were forced into this arrangement against our will. I want to know what it will take to make this work. You asked if I was presumptuous. Yes, I am. I will never give up. I will never go back on my word. Thanks to you, I found out about my parents. My father asked me to carry on his dream, which happened to match with what I want to do. I will become the Hokage. It is a question of when, not if. From there, I will do my best to bring peace. I do not know how, I do not know how long, but I do know that I will not give up. I will either achieve this peace or die trying. The Kyuubi was watching the boy closely. He was reading into him as he spoke. To his incredulity, this little human believed what he was saying. The firm resolve in his eye never wavered as he spoke. The Kyuubi was impressed by this child, he felt the light and positivity radiating from him. He felt as if just being around the boy was purifying some of his overwhelming hatred for this pathetic race. After the boy's pause, the Kyuubi cut in. Okay, Ninjin, let us stop with the Sama crap. I am your prisoner, for the time being. Let's say I believe your words, and that you will become Hokage. What do you want with the Jinchuriki and my brethren? Naruto was confused, the pressure had let up quite a bit. The Kyuubi even seemed to acknowledge Naruto's dream. He decided to go with his gut and be honest. Kyuubi, I have heard that Jinchuriki are often ostracized, or worse. I do not wish to see them continue suffering. I do not want those few people in this world that may understand me to suffer unjustly. As for your brethren, am I to presume that the other Biju are your brothers and sisters? At the Kyuubi's nod, Naruto continued, if they are sentient beings like you, then my previous stance stands. I do not approve of enslavement or control. It is wrong. I do not know much more at this time, but I believe that to my core. Are you saying you would attempt to free the Biju? Asked the Kyuubi with a hint of surprise in his voice. Naruto had to pause and think at this. The furrow in his brow indicated how seriously he took the question. If it is possible without killing the Jinchuriki, and they agreed not to harm humans, then I think I would, replied Naruto in earnest. Incredible, thought the Kyuubi, this mere human child doesn't show the fear or prejudice that plagues his race. Could it be the human that Toussaint told us about? Preposterous, we have waited centuries and the one never showed up. This human is just a boy, there is no way his resolve will stand. Despite the Kyuubi's thoughts, this was the first ray of hope that had ever reached the incarnation of hatred. The sage created the Biju to represent different aspects of the world and human nature. The sage imparted the Kyuubi with the task to keep the evil of this world in check. After centuries of dealing with the worst side of humanity, Kyuubi's hatred grew and he began to doubt his father, the sage of six paths. His thoughts were interrupted by Naruto. Kyuubi, if I may ask, aside from getting out of here and killing me, what is it you want to do? Now, it was official, the Kyuubi was floored. In fact, he was so stunned that he had to blink to reset his vision and make sure he wasn't back under some genjutsu. Well, tiny Ninjin, I have been imprisoned for over a century. If it were possible, I want to stretch my legs. The seals of Mito and your mother had me pinned to an eternal sun and then your mother had me bound securely in chains. This seal is more spacious, but I haven't seen the forest in so long. Naruto blinked, of all the responses he was ready for, that was not one of them. Naruto approached the center of the cage and the symbol of the Shinigami, and the seal appeared in front of him. Naruto put his hand on the seal and focused. It should be possible for him to do this, it is his mind after all. He concentrated hard for nearly 5 minutes. The Kyuubi watched the boy with interest. Suddenly there was a flash of light and everything went white with only a translucent barrier separating the Kyuubi from the boy. Slowly fields of grass emerged below the Kyuubi, then a forest of giant redwood trees appeared in the distance. A giant lake formed next to a massive rock that the Kyuubi could fit comfortably on. Finally, a sun appeared in the middle of a blue sky. The sun radiated the warmth and purity that the Kyuubi felt from this child. The Kyuubi couldn't take it anymore. He was at his wit's end. He forced himself to ask the question that he had been barring from escaping his throat. Why? Why would you do this for me, Ninjin? The massive fox couldn't hide the surprise and bits of awe from entering his tone. The way I see it, we are stuck with each other. Till death do us part, as Tsunade Bakken said. If I have a happier guest sealed in my stomach, I figured it would probably make my life easier as well. The Kyuubi grunted at this, very well, Ninjin. This is the second favor that I now owe to you. This is a much better prison than I had previously. Now I ask that you state your requests for me. As I have previously stated, I do not enjoy being in debt to others. The Kyuubi watched this tiny meatball. The feeling from earlier grew in his chest. Maybe he could try trusting someone this once. If this ninja gets out of line, then he would flood the seal, kill the human, and then hope he could reform. He really didn't want to do that, dying hurt bad enough. But the process of reforming was far worse and far more painful. Well, Kyuubi, I had prepared one request, but I wasn't ready for a second. However, I know what I want to know. First, what is your name? I presume the Kyuubi is just a title. Second, until I die or find a way to safely remove you, would you consider being my partner and helping me achieve my goals? That did it. The Kyuubi was done. His brain formed of pure chakra short-circuited. The shock of a human child talking to him and being nice was one thing. The child being able to control his mind and shape his prison was something entirely else in and of itself. Now, instead of power, abilities or some other form of narcissism, the child asks for his name. And to be his friend. Kami, if you are messing with I swear I will devour you. Father, if this is not the child you promised, I will give up on humanity forever and devour this world. Very well, Kit. My word is my bond. I will uphold my end of the deal, but there are conditions for this. To us Biju, our names are sacred. You are never to share my name unless I deem the human worthy of knowing it. To all humans, you will refer to me by my title as the Kyuubi no Kitsune. For your second request, you will need to earn the right to be the friend or partner of the great Kyuubi no Kitsune. Do you agree to these conditions? Sick of being surprised, the Kyuubi watched Naruto pass through the translucent barrier and approach him. Confused, no, that's not the right word. Incredulous, no, that is overused. Gobsmacked, yes, that will do. The Kyuubi was gobsmacked. The human just willingly entered his domain. With a mere flick of the tail, he could take over this human boy's mind. So why wouldn't his tail move? Why wouldn't he just crush this tiny, fragile little meat sack? It clicked. Kyuubi knew that this child was the only hope he had. Yummy, he was the only hope any of his brothers and sisters had. It was at this point that the Kyuubi slid his proverbial chip stack to Kami and went all in. Naruto continued at a slow and controlled pace. The pressure of the chakra coming off the Kyuubi threatened to flatten him with each step he took. His negative emotion sensing let him feel all of the pent-up hatred, disgust and disappointment. As he got nearer, these feelings seemed to intensify. When he got close enough to the Kyuubi, he stopped and held out his hand. Once again, it is nice to meet you. My name is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze and I will become Hokage and I will do everything in my power to bring peace to the elemental nations. I will do what I can to help you and you siblings find peace. You have my word. And I never go back on my word. Datbeo. The Kyuubi looked at the boy's hand, and with great restraint he touched one of his nails to the boy's hand. Kit, you are the first human since the sage that I am trusting with my name. My name is Kurama, the Kyuubi no Kitsune. I acknowledge your right to use my name. I do not, however, acknowledge your right to use my power. That right will have to be earned. I will watch you, train you, test you, and when you think you are ready, I will grant you the right to challenge me for my power. Deal, Kurama, said Naruto as he broke out his gigawatt smile for the fox. Could you tell me why you call me Kit though? Kit is what foxes call their kids. At this stage, you are a child, and I will refer to you as such. Now Kit, this has gone on long enough. Leave me to rest and explore my new domain. Next Friday, you will return here for training. You got it, Kurama. Man, that is a sweet name. Bye. As Naruto left the mindscape, Kurama was still gobsmacked by that whole meeting. Never, not once in his wildest Tsukuyomi-induced dreams, did he think the meeting would go like that. At every turn, the brat surprised him. As he lay down on his new rock and curled up, he felt a peace that had long since been absent come over him as he closed his eyes. As for Naruto, he came out of the mindscape and passed out right there on the floor of his dad's training room. The sheer magnitude of the Kyuubi's presence and that whole experience hit him at once when he returned to reality. Tsunade would check up on him a bit later and carry him to bed. That's it for part 2 of this powerful alternate Naruto story. If you're enjoying Naruto's growing alliances, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more Naruto What If fanfics. Comment below, which character should play the biggest role in part 3.